welcome into the Joncast podcast. That's the new intro. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, it's going to make a lot more sense than if you're just listening to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever. And it's a very abrupt ending, so I might have to do something with that. But welcome in. This is the Joncast podcast. This is episode number 52. So happy that everybody has chosen to come along and join me for this ride. And we're up over 50. And just a reminder that looking to do that listener party. I'll have all the details real soon at me and Julio in Madison. I'm going to have a special guest, going to have a live podcast. Go out there and have a margarita or two because they're delicious. I'll get you all the details. Like I said, it's going to be a fast turnaround looking at mid-May. So start keeping mid-May open and check out me and Julio. They got their Tuesday and Thursday margarita specials. Plus, they got their wine Wednesdays. Also brought to you by Ian's Pizza in Madison. 3 locations. Always got new slices, does Ian's Pizza. Ian's Pizza also in Denver, in Seattle, and in Milwaukee, if you happen to be in Milwaukee. But you can go check out Ian's Pizza in Madison. Delicious, all the different variety of slices. And if you want a cool Wisconsin sports themed t-shirt, it's always joncastpodcast.com. But I'm pretty excited for today's podcast because I'm speaking with somebody I knew back in Madison not too long ago, but it seems like forever ago. Today's guest is a former sports reporter at WKOW TV in Madison. Also worked at, do you say NESN or is it NESN? We'll ask her about it, but I know her from Madison and her time at WKOW. That's how I know her. And we'll talk about her broadcasting career and what's next for her. Welcome to the Joncast podcast, Cealey Godwin. How are you, Cealey?
John, I am great. And yes, it is NESN. You were not the first one to ever ask that question, but yes, it is NESN, New England Sports Network. That's where I was the last 2 years. But 2015, 2017, that's the last 2 years that I was with you in Madison. So it's been a minute, but it's good to be here.
Yeah, we were just talking about how time goes so fast because that does, to me, it seems like, oh, I remember Cealey. We talked like a couple of years ago when she's, wait, like half a decade.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely wild. There's so many good memories too. In Madison, all the things we got to experience with UW, all the different coaching changes, all the great, fantastic runs that the basketball team had, that the volleyball team had. I mean, watching the volleyball team win, even though I was back here in Tallahassee, it was like, it just felt so good to finally see them get that breakthrough and get that win. So, but yeah, and the Ian's Pizza, as you were talking about that too, I miss that pizza.
It's so good. It's so good. So you were around for both Final Fours with the Badger?
I came in the tail end of the last one. So I got there the week after they got eliminated. And it was just so sad with Frank the Tank and Sam Decker. It was sad to see that ending that they had. But man, they just had such great basketball teams with Bo Ryan and then now with Greg Gard. And just there's kind of their defensive ways. They're so different than a lot of other teams in the country just because they play just such great defensive ball, even though it's low scoring games. They're just very fundamentally sound. So I miss covering the Big Ten and basketball in the Big Ten.
Yeah. So you got here right after they lost to Duke.
Yes.
Like a week afterwards.
It was literally the week after. I remember I just found out that I had gotten the job. And I was so pumped about covering basketball. I was like, man, maybe I'll get there just in time. Yeah. And I didn't. So, but then, there was so much to look forward to for the next years to come. And just see that program grow in the transition over to guard. So, and that whole family, it was such a great experience covering those basketball teams.
Yeah. So what's new with you then? What's been keeping you busy since your time in Madison and then your time in Boston?
Yeah. So after Madison, I went to Denver. I was there for 2 years at KUSA. Right. And then I went over to Boston and I got to launch a show, which was a first in my career. It was a late night sports show called NESN After Hours. And it was so fun. And there was so much excitement toward, what we were going to do. 3 months into it, the pandemic happens. And so it just kind of changed everything because we were going to be having people in studio, doing a lot of live interviews and things like that. So it just kind of changed everything. So I did 2 years of that. We were out of office, out of our workplace, out of studio. And then we finally got to come back. And so I did that for 2 years. And then in November, as we all know, this industry is tough and it's very hard to keep a show going. So they decided to just move in a different direction with the show. And so the show was unfortunately canceled. And so I came back home, and I'm back in Tallahassee, Florida, and I'm working with Seminole Productions, and I'm covering all things Florida State. So I'm back in college athletics, which I am so pumped about. Just covering college is just, it really shows you how much the true love is there for sports, because college athletes are just truly passionate about what they're doing. Not that pro athletes are jaded or anything, but it's just working with that type of athlete is so different than pro athletes. So I'm covering baseball and softball right now, and it's been really fun to do that with Florida State.
Yeah. And you were a college athlete, which I want to get to, right?
Very briefly.
Okay. At Florida State, we'll talk about,
correct.
all right, we'll talk about that a little bit. That's bad timing with the late night show in Boston, because everything you probably had, like you said, like you just had to stop.
Yeah.
Essentially, right? Just had to stop. And like, what could you do with that show? Probably figure out what Zoom was, because remember the days when we didn't know what Zoom was?
We all had to figure out what Zoom was and how to, do a whole show. And you're also working with a co-host you just had met 3 months prior. So you're still trying to figure each other out. And, it was so hard to anticipate what his actions were, what he wanted to talk about. So it was interesting to do that out of studio, but we did such a great job. And I'm so proud of the work that we did do throughout that pandemic, because there was no sports going on. So they relied heavily on our show to give them fresh content each and every day. And we did that for months until sports came back. I mean, that was tough. And I was so proud of our entire team, from our producers, directors, all of our editors, everyone involved just went all in, even though we were going through that scary, unpredictable time with the pandemic. And then just to see the evolution of sports coming back, and then us getting back in studio and starting to get guests again and not having to be so far apart. It was a wild, wild ride, but I was just super proud of everything we were able to do in those 2 years.
Yeah. So what was it like? Because you always hear about certain spots in the United States with the sports fans and just covering sports, and everybody knows how passionate Boston fans are with their sports. So what was it like covering sports in a city like Boston?
Yeah, I've been in a lot of different cities. I've covered a lot of different sports, Missouri, Wisconsin, Colorado, Florida, and Massachusetts. And without a doubt, hands down, Boston's unlike any other when it comes to sports. The most casual fan will quiz you about things. They're just next level. And they have all those titles. I mean, I know that Green Bay kind of gets, title town, all that kind of rep, but you kind of have that in Boston, because they've won in just about every single sport there. And yes, with Tom Brady leaving, the Patriots have not exactly been the same since, but I am a Mac Jones believer. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. I know that can sometimes be a hot take with some people, and then you're seeing what the Celtics are doing right now. And they've been right there getting into, the Eastern Conference Finals and getting deep and just trying to get over that hump. So, but the fans there, especially with Red Sox and Bruins too, I mean, you just can keep going and going. And the Rebs, and now the Connecticut Sun, they've always been in the conversation too, being in the WNBA finals. It's just, you don't stop, you don't sleep, because sports are all the time, and everyone up there cares. That whole entire region knows what they're talking about. No disrespect to the other markets I've been to and the other sports fans, but Boston's next level.
Well, and you mentioned, title town, and Boston has a lot of titles through,
so many,
the Red Sox now over the last 2 decades or whatever it's been. Yep. And obviously the Patriots with Tom Brady. So like, do you think Boston fans, do they get it, that they know like right now it's good times for them, or there's still some people that just kind of want to complain?
I will say nothing satisfies Boston fans. You can be winning and it's still not good enough.
Right.
It's incredible. The standards are so high there. And you win, 17 NBA titles. You win, 4 MLB titles in the last 20 years. You get one with the Bruins. The Bruins have, been up and down. They've had great seasons, and all of a sudden they just can't get it going in postseason. But I mean, it's never good enough.
It's never good enough, is it?
they love you a lot, but if things are going bad, you will hear about it every single day at the water cooler and your work emails and the Slack and the group chats. Everyone is talking about it, like all the way from your 80-year-old grandmother to your 5-year-old daughter. They know everything about what's going on. They're diehards.
Yeah. So when did you want to be a sports reporter? How did that work for you? Like, what was there a moment? Was there a time? Did it just gradually happen? What was that like?
Yeah, I feel like it was such a natural progression for me, honestly. I did reality TV as a kid. When I was 14, I was on a competitive reality TV show.
Wait, hold on. What is this show? I forgot about this. Thank you for bringing this up. I remember something about it, but now what show was it?
It's called Endurance, which it's no longer around, but they have relaunched it under a different name.
Can I bring up YouTube clips and we can watch them together right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll look. You keep talking.
Yes. And it's really funny because if you watch that show and you watch episodes of me, you'll understand me, Quinty. Very competitive, very driven, very loud. But I was on season 5, which was called High Sierras. They ended up having 6 seasons. And I was on green team. It was boy-girl teams, and you would compete on these group missions and team missions, and you would, either win, kind of an advantage or a pyramid piece, which is you were trying to collect, or you would win the right to send 2 teams to the Temple of Fate.
Okay.
It had all these great little names for certain things. This was back in 2005, 6. This feels like we were talking about 2015 being a long time ago. That was a long time ago. So yeah, I was on that show, summer 2006. Yes, 2006. So
well, I can't find.
That might be a good thing.
Okay, but I did find here. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this. If you're watching on Spotify, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen, and I found a picture of you though. Have you seen? You know what I'm talking about? I googled Endurance Cealey YouTube season 5, and well, I don't know. Let me see if I push the right button. Here we go. And if you see this, can you see on your screen?
Yep.
There you are, right there. The crazy hair.
Yep. My hair was all the way down to my butt. Basically, it was super long. And back in those days, we were talking about hair before we went live on this podcast. Back in those days, the highlights were big.
Okay.
Everybody had highlights. Frosted tips. Oh yeah. Did you do frosted tips?
I don't want to say. There might be some videos of me in college with some frosted tips in the what year would that have been? Early 2000s, probably. That sounds about right, right?
Early 2000s. I'm sorry. There's a lot of great fashion in the 90s and 80s and 70s, but I don't want anyone to bring back the 2000s because that was some rough fashion.
That's, I always think about fashion. And by the way, I do want to get back to the sports reporter because I thought we were
great with tangents.
Yeah. But no, I always think about fashion I'm going to look back at this right now in 6-7 years. I'm going to go, why'd you wear that? That looks stupid. You know what I mean? It just happens all the time. I don't think there's anything we could ever wear that in 5, 10, 15 years, you're not going to look back and go, boy, 100%. I look like an idiot. Yeah.
Completely agree with that.
But in the moment, you're probably like, hey, look at this.
Yeah, I look
good, ready to record a podcast. And then I don't know why that is. All right, sports reporter. So
yes.
Okay, tell me more about that. Why?
Okay, so after I did that show, I was 3 days late to high school. So I started high school late because I was on that show. Yeah. And we had a TV production class at my high school. And I ended up taking 2 years of TV production. And I did the sports segment because I was also an athlete. I played soccer. I played we had flag football actually in the state of Florida. And I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of other states that do now where it's not I'm not talking like powder puff. I'm talking legit flag football where you had JV and varsity. So I played that in the spring, and I played soccer in the fall, winter. So I, when I was 16, 17, I realized, you know what, I actually like doing this. And Erin Andrews was super big at that moment. She was just really coming onto the scene. So that was one of the first female sports reporters I liked. And then I got really into Linda Cohn and Hannah Storms because I was watching a lot of ESPN. So basically from there, it just started everything. Got my first taste of TV, legitimate TV, then took production classes, learned how to write scripts, how to edit, how to film. And then I got an internship. And then I got into, later on after I stopped playing soccer, I got into Florida State Communication School and worked with Seminole Productions as a student. And it was just from that point on, every step was geared toward getting me to the goal that my dream.
Yeah. I wonder if Erin Andrews realizes how many people she's inspired
Totally.
to come down this path, because there's so many people. I mean, Erin Andrews is like the cream of the crop, when it comes to like sideline reporting and just being a reporter. Do you ever think about that? And then do you ever think about like if there's somebody watching you, right? And they're like, man, I want to be like, because I'm sure that happens too. I had local reporters. I mean, you're in Boston. That's a huge area.
Yeah.
I had local reporters. I'd be like, oh man, that guy's job's the best.
It's wild to think that, because I think about maybe when I got to Denver, I started having people reach out to me for advice. And I was like, whoa, I'm still learning. I'm, 6 years into this, and I feel like I'm still a long way to go. But really after Boston, having a show and having such a strong, responsibility there with what we were doing, it hit me around that point that, man, I've been doing this for 10 years and I've been around. I haven't just, there's some people who really like, they want to stay where their home is and their home market and the teams they grew up watching. And I madly respect that, but I've had to be all over just to move up, just to keep going. And so it literally feels like every job was a big chapter of my life. And so it's wild now to have people reach out to me for advice and, can I pick your brain? And even with Seminole Productions right now, I'm their senior level sideline dugout reporter. And they have some students that will also get games. They're, master level students. So, they're a little bit older, but they shadow me and they ask me for help. And that is honestly, it's very rewarding when you get to that point, because this job can really beat you down. It can be very, very tough. It's a grind. But when you feel like you're helping out other people, you're like, dang, man, this is worth it to help out other people. I do enjoy doing that.
Yeah. Can I ask you, I want to take a step back a little bit. Because I started going down this path, but then I thought of something else. So when you got let go, right, in Boston, because I got let go in Madison, that was the first time ever in my life that I had lost a job in that way, right? I've left a job before. I don't know if that's ever happened to you.
No.
What was that like for you? Because for me, being in radio, you kind of, and at least for the last 2 or 3 years where our station was kind of up and down, bumpy road, I just kind of mentally, like, it's going to happen eventually. Like, this is sports media. This is radio. Everybody gets let go eventually.
Oh, totally.
Do you kind of have that same attitude? What's that?
The best of the best get let go.
Sure.
And I've been very fortunate that for the first 10 years of my career, it was seamless transitions. But eventually you get to a point when you're taking a risk, as with something like a brand new show, that you're trying something new in a market that is really, really tough. And you're going on. And I mean, this was super late night. This was after Red Sox or Bruins post game. So this isn't immediately after the game. This is 2-ish hours after the game. So you're on sometimes at 1 or 2 in the morning. And I would post about that. I'd be like, oh, I'm just walking into my apartment and it's 4 in the morning. It's tough. It's very, very tough. But honestly, like, I know that we had good viewership because the responses that I would get, the amount of people following and interacting. But sometimes, the person that hired me and then the person that was the one in charge of letting us know that the show would no longer be around, they were 2 different people. So when you have a change of guard, they kind of want to go a different direction, and that's fine. And the thing is it's not personal, because I wasn't the only one. So if I was the only one, I would be a little bit worried. But when they dissolve an entire newsroom,
yeah,
you're like, dang, man, there's nothing I could have done.
Yeah.
But the thing is I've been doing this for so long. I was like, you know what? Let me try freelancing. So I did the MLS Super Draft in January. That was awesome. And Seminole Productions got hooked up with them, and they're like, we would love to have you on board. And covering my alma mater again, yes, sign me up.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly, it's been good to actually step back too. Yeah, it's an ego. It's a a punch to your ego. But the thing is, I mean, you probably feel this way too. We don't slow down. We don't stop. Sports is basically 24/7. There's no off seasons anymore. So I've actually had, for the first time in 10 years, been able to take vacations to see my nephews play ball. I'm going on tour with my friend's band. I've been having these opportunities. I was an extra in a movie 2 months ago.
What movie?
I can't tell you yet.
Oh, really?
I'll let you know when it comes out, because
tell me about the band.
It doesn't come out then.
Okay, yeah, unless it doesn't.
But
unless
like,
you get caught.
I've been taking acting classes, and I'm still doing sports. I'm still on the sidelines for Florida State baseball and softball when it's on ACC Network Extra. And so, I mean, I'm getting to freelance and do other things and try out other things and take a break, which has been very healthy for me. But yeah, it was tough at first. And not to be a Debbie Downer, it was hard to lose that job. But the week after I found that out, my dog of 7 years, I had to put her down.
Oh.
And I don't know if you saw SVP, his tribute to his dog, Otis, I'm pretty sure is his name. He had to put down his dog as well. And man, there's nothing like losing a dog. That it's soul crushing.
Yeah.
So on top of the job, I also was dealing with the loss of my best friend, essentially, that had moved with me from Missouri to Wisconsin to Colorado to Boston. So it was a lot. I'm 30 years old and I'm hitting a midlife crisis. So,
when it rains, it pours, right? That's what they
right?
say.
But that's the thing is that I honestly feel like it's just a giant test. Some people get their test early in their career, sometimes in the middle of their career, and sometimes it's at the very end. But we're all going to get a test at some point. Nobody, gets smooth waters. You're going to sometimes deal with some storms here. So it's been a growing transitional phase for me, but honestly, I'm trying to embrace it as much as possible. Long-winded answer, but that's what I got for you, John.
No, that's good. You mentioned in sports, there's no off season, and you're absolutely right. I think that's one thing that maybe a listener or a viewer quite doesn't grasp, because when you're like, I'll just speak from my, perspective is, so you wake up in the morning, you're like, what's new? What did I miss? What did I miss overnight? Because you can't watch everything. And then, so you're trying to plan out a show. You're trying to do all these other responsibilities that you have. But the main thing is to plan out a show, and you get all these topics and you get all these ideas, and then you do it for however long your show is. And then you go home. But guess what? The Bucks play tonight, or the Brewers have a big series starting, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do that. Or there's a national game, or the Badgers are playing. And then before you know it, your whole day was sports. So I totally understand what you're saying, because when I got let go, the month of August, I don't even know what sports was. I didn't pay attention to balls or sporting events or anything like that. And I just golfed, and it was, but I know what you're talking about. And I don't know if everybody realizes just how much sports there really are. And when you're in it, not complaining, but when you're in it, it takes up a lot of your time.
It honestly feels kind of like, at first, like a really bad breakup. You want to get rid of their t-shirts, their hoodies, your pictures. You don't want to see anything that has to deal with that person, because it hurts so much. It's such a bad breakup, but it's healthy. And I think it doesn't matter what job you're in. Sometimes you need to take a step back and turn off the phone, get off social media, because there's so many games. You talked about all the different games and series, and training camp is starting, and they're in the middle of playoffs here, and then this college sport is starting, and I need to tweet about it, and I need to be on top of the most viral trending thing, and you do not stop.
Don't stop. No.
Honestly, the last couple of months, I feel like I can think normally again, which has been healthy. All I've had to focus on is Florida State softball and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, only two sports?
Yeah.
I can do this in my sleep.
Cealey, you get to think better. You're right. Your brain starts to be like, okay, I can slow down. I can start to think in a more positive way sometimes. And you're right. Like I noticed that same thing. And for me again, like, so volleyball season was starting.
Mm-hmm.
I took a month of August off, and then volleyball season started. And I kept thinking, you're speaking right to me, Cealey, because in my head, I'm thinking, this is amazing. I get to focus on one sport, just one sport. And I get to study every day of the week if I want for a couple hours, to be really good and really prepared. And it was such a relief to be like, not 8 different teams, one team, one focus. That's all I'm doing. And I feel like the quality of work increased
so much better, right?
So much. Yes.
So much. And I mean, that's why we're seeing a lot of people get sports specific, where you have MLB Network, you have NHL Network. Hopefully we'll have an MLS network maybe one day. We'll figure out whenever the rights and everything gets figured out in the next year here. But I mean, it's awesome to know a lot about a bunch of different sports, but it is work. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of watching. It's a lot of talking to different people. The beat writers that have the inside scoops that you're like, hey, can you tell me about this player? I mean, drafts. And if you look at baseball as a sport as a whole, all of the analytics that are in baseball, it's a grind just to know one sport. But when you have to know about 8, and not just, in some markets and some local TV stations, you have to know pro, you have to know college, you have to know high school. So all the different levels too. And all the rules are different at certain levels. It's a lot, but it's if you love it, you love it.
Yeah.
And that's why we do it. That's why we're here, even though it demands a lot out of you. 17 hours, you have to be an MMJ. You have to move across the country every 2 years and pick up and start over. But you do it because you love it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, then you get out of the business. You go to the dark side and do PR and marketing. But
as I'm searching on my Indeed website for those exact jobs, that's hilarious.
Hey man, at least those jobs come with free
salary,
weekends,
like a better salary. I'm just kidding. That's my radio perspective.
People knew how broke journalists were.
Oh yeah, like they think like you're on TV. You must make millions. It's like, no, I make less than you do. Yeah, no one realized that. Like, no, I make way less. Well, I'll speak, and I'm radio, so I'm a step below television. But you said
we had to have second jobs. I had a second job working with iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
I did the Wisconsin Women's Sports Hour.
That's right. With Diane.
That's how I met you.
Yes, that's right. Yes. But you said you got to know a lot, and that's true. I've got a buddy. His name's Jesse, and he'll like there'll be like a random sports story about somebody's offensive coordinator in the Big 12 or something, mm-hmm. and he'll ask me about it. I'm like, aren't you supposed to know that? Don't you follow sports? I'm like, how many teams? I'm supposed to know all the offensive coordinators now? Like
my guy, I need to sleep.
Like I gotta sleep sometimes. I can't just read and consume everything.
I learned a great response to that though. When people tell me that, I'll be like, I don't know, but I'll look it up and I'll get back to you.
Oh, okay.
Because like we can't expect everyone to know everything about everything. You can try.
Do you get?
And you always know more than the average person because obviously you do this for a living.
Yeah.
But I mean, man, like I had people quiz me early on in my career. I dealt with that early on.
I've heard that women have to deal with that men will always quiz them about, the facial reaction says it all. Yeah.
Tell me who won the Super Bowl in 1987. Like, tell me who was the head coach of both teams. Like, calm down, dude. Calm down. Like you don't win something for knowing a little bit more than I do in this area. But I mean, I dealt with it early on in my career, and I usually get asked this question more along the phrasing of what is something as a woman you've had to deal with? And that was something I had to deal with early on in my career. But once you get to a certain point, when you've been around the block and people know who you are and you walk in a place like you know what you're doing and you come prepared with your questions and you know what you're talking about, then you don't have to prove anything. But early on, I dealt with that. But that says more about that person and less about me and my ability. Right. So, yeah, when I was younger, when I was 21 at my first on-anchor job in Joplin, Missouri, yeah, I would have some people ask me that. I would have a football coach yell at me because he didn't like what I said on my broadcast, even though the other male anchor said the same exact thing. Ooh, so won't name that coach. Okay. But he did apologize later on for that too. But I don't deal with that stuff anymore. And I'm thankful. That just shows you the progress that we're seeing in the industry, that there's so many women that are in these rooms now that people you don't stand out as much. I feel like now we're seeing a huge growth when it comes to minorities and people of color, and we still have so much room left to go there. We're making everyone feel like it's a welcome environment where they're respected because they earned the job, not because they have to earn your respect. Like, they already earned the job, clearly. Yeah. And so there's been a lot of progress, but there's still some ways to go, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, you come from a sports background. You said you spent a little bit of time at Florida State on the soccer team. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And then, did you have a favorite athlete growing up, and was it a soccer player?
Yes, my first favorite athlete was Mia Hamm, actually, when I was about 5 or 6. And, this is after they had won the World Cup, and it was such a big deal. And I later met her in Denver. And this is, now 20 years later, and I'm an adult. I'm not a child. And I still feel like a kid when I see her. And I'm like, hi, I'm Cealey. I loved you as a kid. You were an inspiration to me. And I look at her face, and she's just like this grown woman is sitting here talking to me about her being a child. And I was like, anyway, it was really nice to meet you. I'll see you later. And I'm like, that's, I mean, I could tell she just was like, wow, like, this is a grown woman telling me this, not a child. I'm not like cute, like a little kid. So it was funny when I met her, but yeah, I mean, she was my favorite athlete as a kid. And part of the reason why I got into playing soccer as heavily as I did. So I was a potential walk-on at Florida State, but we're going to go back further than that. Okay. I was a preferred walk-on at Lynn University, which is a D2 school in South Florida in Boca Raton. And I went there. I graduated early. So I left after, halfway through my senior year of high school. And I went there, and I hadn't met the girls. I had been on the campus once, and the team was so senior heavy that we had maybe 8 or 9 players that were practicing in the spring, and it was intense. It was intense. I mean, that jump from high school to college was hard for me because I came from a high school where we didn't lift. We didn't, we had preseason, we had conditioning, we had a strength and conditioning coach, but we weren't on that next level yet. I was in ODP briefly as well. So I'd played on some really good teams, but I knew I would have a long way to go. And I was a decent player. But I realized, a couple months, and I'm like, maybe this isn't the right fit. Public school kid going to a private school. And I thought I played really well in the spring. And I just decided, you know what? I think I want to come home. So I talked with Mark Krikorian before. I mean, there's a lot of news coming out with Mark Krikorian these days after leaving Florida State, but what a fabulous soccer coach, the best in women's soccer, without a doubt. And I talked with him because I'd grown up with him coming to some of my games and scouting some players that he was looking at, usually teams we were playing against. And I had a conversation with him. He's like, listen, you'll be a practice player. You'll probably never play. And I was like, I appreciated him being real with me about that. Yeah. And I trained for like 2 weeks. Was like, there's no way. The women that he recruited at Florida State, they're the best for a reason. These women are, getting drafted super high up in the NWSL for a reason. These are some talented soccer players. I'm just happy that I was able to even be considered at that level as a practice player. And I don't like to say I have regrets, but I do wish that I knew more about recruiting growing up. I mean, recruiting's tough. You really have to understand how it works. And my family, we didn't. And the region I was in was not a top region in the state of Florida. But the thing is like I still play and pick up. I still play co-ed. And I'll give a good run for like 5 minutes. And then I'm like, you know what? I need to go to the bench. I need some water. So I still enjoy playing. And it's honestly my favorite sport to watch and to cover because I'm so passionate about the game and seeing it grow so much. And eventually I want to start doing play-by-play for soccer. That's the next goal on my agenda.
You would be fantastic at it.
I'm putting it out into the world. My friends know this, but now I'm putting it out into the world, John, because I'm going to make that happen. So
yeah, I think you most certainly can. And I think you'd be great at it. You got the chops, kid. I don't know. No, but you're great. I mean, I've seen your work obviously and what you've done in the After Hours show, and then what you did here in Madison as well. I think that'd be pretty cool.
It would be cool. I mean, I've done everything. I've hosted, I've reported, I know how to shoot, I know how to edit, I've produced. I mean, I've done it all. And my mentor, Marcelo Balboa, who is the color for the Rapids. This is a U.S. men's national team legend. Cello is, near and dear to my heart, but he's been telling me for years, he's like, girl, you need to get in the booth. So this is the time.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to be looking for you next then, right? I guess so.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. So I thought this would be fun for you and I to do some like reactions because I just started a YouTube channel and I'll put this on YouTube because it seems like good content. And there are 3 videos we're going to react to and watch. 2 of them are sports related. One of them is not. So you get to choose your own adventure. What do you want to see first? One of the 2 sports related ones or the non-sports related video, and we'll react to these videos.
Let's do the sports one first.
Sports one. Okay, we got 2 of them. So we'll start with, because you're you covered the Boston Celtics. I'm in Wisconsin. The Bucks and Celtics are playing a series. So let me push a couple buttons. Did you see the dunk that Giannis had on Sunday?
Dunk. Yes.
The dunk. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's all you got to say. All right. So let's watch this together, because when I was watching this in real time in my house, I saw it and I don't remember what I said, but I screamed. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like I can't believe that just happened. So here's Giannis with the alley-oop off the backboard to himself. Let's take a look.
Matthews with Drew with Javon. Antetokounmpo. Williams.
Look at this. Defense. Look at this.
Threw it to himself. Oh, he's eviscerating the Celtics.
I think he lost it. I think he lost the handle. I don't know if it was on purpose. I haven't heard him say anything yet
in a superstar
when we're taping this. But
6'11", 240.
Nah, that's globetrotting stuff where hey, I can take this in all by myself. And I'm gonna pass it to myself. He knew what he was doing there. Look how calm and cool and collected he is. The bench is losing their mind.
The bench is the best. All right, so there you go. There's the first one. Yeah, like I said, when that happened, I was just, but that's Giannis. He just makes everything just look so easy. I can't believe how amazing Giannis has become.
Honestly, I don't think people appreciate athletes like that enough when they're in their prime, because that's just ridiculous. Like, they make it look so easy, but it is so hard. What
so difficult. And Giannis just, oh my gosh, he's just so long. And
he's such a special player. He truly is, because like his interviews too, like who he is as a person, working with the media, you can't ask for anything better than that.
No,
you really can't.
He's so humble. And the book Giannis, The Improbable Rise of an NBA MVP, Miran Fader wrote that book. I was just had her on the podcast on episode 50, a couple episodes again. And just, you get to love Giannis even more through that book, because
no kidding.
You realize
if that's possible.
Right. If that's possible.
If that's even possible.
Just how nice and humble and everything about Giannis. I just love Giannis. And then to add on top of that he could be possibly like the best player in the league right now. It's crazy.
I mean, even when you go back to his early days, when he told people that, he wanted to be MVP and people laughed, like, yeah, kid, go get him. and he meant it. But he didn't like take it as a dig. He took it so well. Some people would get salty and start tweeting mean stuff or posting and being just a brat. And he just was like, okay, yeah, it's cool, man. And he just went and did it.
And he's just went and did it a couple times. Okay. So basketball or non-sports?
Let's keep it with basketball. Let's keep it going.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So this one is another dunk. This was the other week. And once again, I don't know what it is about dunks in the playoffs, but this one, what was your reaction when you saw John Morant do this against the Timberwolves?
Winner takes a 3-2 lead in this opening round series.
Watch this. Get out. Look at this.
Come on.
It's back by his butt. Like, how does he do that?
Poster. Ugh. Man, he had so much fun playing in that series. He really did. And he's a player that is just so fun to watch. I mean, he's brought so much to that city. They love him to death. I mean,
thanks for watching ESPN.
All right.
Love Ja. And the whole thing with his dad and Usher was hilarious too.
Yeah. I mean, this John Morant, I don't know. Like, it's so funny because Zion and Ja came at the same time. And Zion, I mean, I think he averaged like 27 points per game or something like that. And then he gets injured and you don't even hear about Zion. And like Ja's like, I'm the cream of the crop of that class. And that dunk was just some nasty dunks. But that one, Ja always has either the best dunks or the best missed dunks. Cause he has a couple of missed dunks where he's like jumping over dudes and he just boom, bounces it off or whatever. But man, he wants
to windmill over 4 people.
That's all he wants to do.
He's going to try. I give him kudos for trying because he still runs the floor extremely well and he plays defense. But I mean, when you see crazy dunks like that, how can you not love that player?
Right.
Like, come on. That's on everybody's highlight. That had to be SportsCenter top 10 number 1.
That might be number 1 of the season. I don't know.
It was we love dunks. I don't know what it is about just the mean and grittiness and putting someone on a poster. Yeah. We love dunks. I do love people who can shoot from, the parking lot, but something about getting in the paint, getting big and making someone look silly. That is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, that's classic. All right. And the final, did you see that? Here, if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, if you're just listening, you're going to have to go check out the video portions of these. Is this, I saw this on Twitter, okay? And I kind of laughed. I'm like, well, that's totally fake, but it's cool. It's cool. I don't know if you've come across this yet, but it's a video that some dude put out in which he put a CGI moon like here, I'll just show you. It's like a moon going, it's supposed to be called Arctic North Pole Moon or something like that, but it's totally fake. And why can't I get the thing right? Here we go.
Oh, I think
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Get that full screen. Go back a little bit. So check this out. The moonrise. Like, look at that. I saw that. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool, but please don't tell me anyone believed that this was real.
I mean, this is something on the TV show The 100 or some other kind of like futuristic movie or TV show. But there's a lot of what are they called? Dub fakes? What are they?
Deep fakes.
Deep fakes. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I mean, people believe anything now. Truly.
I mean, that is so
it's cool.
fake.
It's cool.
It's cool. Let me go back.
But
come on. Because obviously a lot of the Twitter comments was like, oh, this looks totally real, but like joking sarcastically or whatever. But some people believe this stuff. And all I'm thinking is, if the moon was ever this close, well, number one,
we'd have problems.
Right. We'd have problems.
Serious climate problems.
I mean, like it was so far-fetched that I didn't believe it for 1 second. But if it was like that, we'd have serious issues. And you don't think anybody would have filmed this by now? Like, you think by 2022, it's like,
seen it and I would have seen it.
Right. I think we would have been taught about that in school, like the spot where you can go watch the moon go over the earth that close. Like, and people see that in 2022, and there are really people out there that go, oh wow, I never knew that. Like, come on, if that was real, everybody in the world would know about that.
Yeah, there would be a giant tidal wave coming through your front door in Wisconsin.
the tides would be all screwed up.
Everything would be disrupted completely because that is how a lot of certain things that work on our planet because of the spacing of the solar system. So let's not mess it up here.
Yeah, that's great. I read one comment said like the Earth would be ripped apart or something like that. Like, and I don't know if that's true. But at least I admit I don't know if that's true. All right. Well, that was fun. That was fun watching some videos. I like this because in this program we're using, we get to like play videos and like see each other at the same time. So I thought that's
fun. All three of those are great too. Yeah. I saw the moon one from Rex Chapman just because he posts so much stuff.
Okay.
That's how I saw that one. I remember glancing at it and be like, and it's fake, scroll. And I'm moving on.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely cool video, but yeah, I feel for those people who live in La La Land and believe everything that they read and see. So must be nice to live life like that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you one last thing here because you know I saw all these on my phone except for the Giannis one and the John Morant one. I was watching on TV when it happened. You were talking about like getting away from like your phone, like after you got let go and just getting away from sports and everything like that. Are you like me? Are you addicted to your phone? Because I can't get off my phone and I hate it. And I thought after I lost my job, I'd be able to get off my phone a little bit more. And I think I have. Do you have any tips for me? Is that, are you like that too?
I'm
the only one.
You know what? I'm going to admit this. Before we posted this and we got on this, it's like, man, I did my hair and I did my makeup. I'm going to take a photo. I'm going to post it. So I'm not the person to go to it for advice because I literally just posted something. But honestly, I've realized the most because I have put it down a lot more because I want to be more present. And that's something that a lot of reporters, not just in sports, struggle with, but being present when they're not working because news cycle is 24/7. If a coach gets fired or someone dies, unfortunately, and you have to all of a sudden cover it, you're never present in the moments that you're with your family or you're off the clock, quote unquote. But it's been so healthy to put it away. I have realized that it's okay to not tweet about X, Y, and Z. It's okay to not have an opinion on this certain thing that just happened. You can let other people have those opinions. And taking a step back, I realized just how much people like to hear themselves talk. And I realized how the phone, as I'm pointing to it, I just think I gained a new perspective. And I think that kind of helped me step away from it because I realized not everyone wants to hear what I have to say all the time. I might think that they do because they follow me, but in reality, they don't. And I've actually looked more at some people's takes and I'm like, that one could have stayed in the draft.
I do that. There's sometimes, and especially catch myself if I'm like, get fired up about something.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, do I need to say this? Like, I don't, why? I'm just going to get in there and then someone's going to respond and I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to respond to that. And and it's one little comment can take away an hour. So
totally. I'm on the fence on whether or not some people like want to engage with trolls. Some people do it all the time and some people just ignore. I'm on the fence. Like there is a certain, if you can like dunk on them, do it. But if you engage with every single troll, are you really like doing your job or are you just on the internet to fight?
Yeah.
So there's a fine line. I think there at some point you can engage with some people, but some people just want to get you riled up. And you have to be able to tell the difference between someone who actually wants to have a thoughtful, meaningful sports conversation and someone who's just trying to push your buttons. But it has, stepping away from the phone the last couple of months here, and I'll tweet when I'm working, when I'm covering Florida State, I'll be tweeting, I'll be sharing stuff, highlights from the night, interviews that we do. I'll share that stuff, but I just realized if somebody really wants to know my opinion, I'll go on a podcast or I'll go on the radio. But it's a newfound perspective where I realize that not everyone needs to know your opinion about everything all the time. Even though your bosses kind of make you feel like you have to engage all the time, you don't.
No.
No.
Yeah. And that Apple like limits that you can set on your iPhone,
Yes.
like that's a bunch of baloney because I've used it and then I'm using it and then it pops up. You're like, hey, we're done today, buddy. I'm like,
Dismiss.
Like, give me another 15 minutes. Just
like,
turn
hey,
it off.
quit yelling at me, phone.
I'm in charge. You're not in charge.
I
phone.
own you. You don't control me, but do you?
And one of the greatest, and I'm going to try to do this again. Like last summer, the summer before, or maybe it was 3 years ago. I don't remember anymore. I thought I was working with you or hanging out with you like 2 years ago, but it's been like 7.
It's been a lot longer.
I once forgot my phone when we were going out to eat with like family. And I was like, shoot, I forgot my phone. I should go back. And I'm like, screw it. And it was cool because then it felt like it was 1996 all over again or something like that, where you could like sit down and talk to people. And it was awesome. So I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to forget my phone more often. It's pretty, you should try it.
Honestly, putting it in, when I go out with people, I put it in my purse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put it on the table. Cause like I used to work in restaurants before I got into TV. I was a server and it's very healthy for people to be in the serving industry. This is one of my big things. I think everyone should work in sales or restaurants at some point in their life because it'll make them better human beings. Anyway, when I worked a lot in restaurants, I'd see full families on their phones at dinner with each other. And I would walk up and, me just being a sassel, I'd be like, riveting conversation we're having here. And then my tip would be bad and I would wonder why. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible when you see whole groups of people out to dinner and they're all on their phones.
Yeah, it's sad. And no one's looking at each other. And
So I'm glad you forgot your phone.
I'm guilty. I'm going to try to forget it more often, especially.
Do it.
But then it's tough. Maybe I'll leave it in the car. I'll just leave it in the car.
Why is it
because you
tough?
might need it. Well, because there's so like many things happening. I want to see all the things, Cealey. No, but more so like emergency wise. Like, let's say I need to call somebody because I got a flat tire and I don't know how to change my own tire or something. You know what I mean? Like that's why I just keep it in the car, just so it's there in case I need it.
Well, I mean, I could play devil's advocate all day on this, but I won't. But I understand.
What were you going to say?
Well, if you got a flat tire and you forgot your phone and someone pulls over to help you or a cop, I'm betting they're going to have a phone.
Okay. Yeah.
Because everybody else has one, so you can easily find one.
That's a good point. I'm not like isolated in Antarctica or something like that.
Not at all.
Around. Yeah.
Everybody has a phone. 5-year-olds have phones.
That's a good point. That's a good point. My daughter's 9. She's been asking for a phone. I don't know when, because times have changed. She's going to get a phone sooner than the kid 5 years ago would have or whatever.
Oh, yeah. So I shared my first phone with my brother. He got his when he got to middle school. So I got mine in 4th grade. So I was that 9? Yeah.
What? That is so young.
We shared it. And it was Nokia and we would play the snake game on it.
Yeah. Snake game. I think that's what it was.
I mean, what is a 9-year-old going to do on a phone?
I don't know.
Friend? Hi. Okay. Bye.
See ya. Well, now play games and apps and all that stuff.
Yeah. I will say I'm addicted to Wordle and to Wordmaster, which is Wordle, but I can play it infinitely times in a day.
I've only played Wordle maybe 4 or 5 times. 5 for 5, 4 for 4, whatever that is. Yeah.
I'm addicted. I think I've lost like maybe 5 times and those losses hurt.
Yeah. Losses hurt. Cealey, this was fun. I appreciate you jumping on the podcast, taking some time here and catching up.
I appreciate you asking me to come on. It was good to reminisce and catch up as well. And I mean, let's try to do this again in 5 years? Is that the pattern?
Well, 5 years from now, and it'll actually be 15 because the concept of time. No, we'll do it again for sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right, thank you. All right, there you go. Cealey Godwin, the guest today on the Joncast podcast. A reminder, Then I'm on YouTube now. So if you want to subscribe, that'd be fun. Put all the videos and the clips out there on YouTube. You can always watch this on Spotify or Apple. A rate or review goes a long way for sure. You can support the podcast as well. Everything's there in the episode description. What else? Thank you to Ian's Pizza. Ian's Pizza and myself, we're going to come up with a new promotion here in the summertime. So stay tuned for that. We'll be giving away some cool stuff. Me and Julio listener party coming up in mid-May. Don't have the exact date. I promise I'll let you know on social media. I'll let you know on this podcast. And please come out. We're going to raise money for charity. I'm going to have a special guest. Can't announce anything quite yet. And they've got the Tuesday and Thursday margaritas for $4, Wine Wednesdays in their month of May specials as well. So go check out me and Julio, joncastpodcast.com. Let's see. I think I covered it all. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Joncast podcast. Goodbye.